Welcome everybody to the Bellevue City Council Candidate Forum. This is an event put on every election cycle by the Bridle Trails Community Club. My name is Joe Michaels. I'm the moderator for tonight's event. I'm delighted that you've joined us. I'm a longtime resident of Bridle Trails, and this is really one of the great privileges to have all of the candidates running for Bellevue City Council join us in an open forum that will allow you to get to know them and to ask questions of them. So let me first go through a few important dates. And as I do this, I want to say thank you not only to our candidates who have made the time to be with us tonight, taking time out of their busy schedules, but also want to thank them for their public service. We know what a challenge it can be to hold public office, and we appreciate their service. I'd like to thank the Bridle Trails Community Club, and you do great work to make our community a better place to live. In particular, I want to thank the committee that worked on tonight's event. We have Loretta Lopez, Norm Hansen, Stuart Heath, Eva Orlowska-Imadi, Joanna Blair, Laura Polt, and especially the tireless Pam Johnston. Thank you very much for working on tonight's event. And with that, let me review a few very important dates related to the election. I'm happy to tell you the ballots should have already been mailed, and you should have already received the ballots or will be receiving them soon. The drop boxes are now open. You can go vote. If you have yet to register, the deadline for registering, if you're going to do it online or by mail, is October 25th. And the incredible thing, I think, is you can register in person all the way up to and through Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd. Keep in mind, if you're going to use the drop box, you must get your ballot in by 8 p.m. on November 2nd. Let's meet the candidates. There are 3 positions that you will be voting for in this election, positions 2, 4, and 6. And we're going to hear at first from the 2 candidates for position 2.
Introducing myself, I've been a resident of Bellevue for 54 years, living in Somerset, and I've been on the City Council for 27.5 years. And I'm a proud resident, raising 2 kids. They both graduated from Newport High School, and now grandfather of 3 granddaughters. And I'm passionate about serving the community. I'm part of the community. I share the values of the community. I've seen all the progress we've made. And I'm very proud of what we've come to. And I'm in a way, I'm a workhorse. I'm not a show horse. So I'm not that great in talking because especially after 27.5 years, it's take a long time to tell people what I've accomplished. So, I'm not I've seen many things happen, and I'm proud to be part of it. And you have seen what Bellevue is like. And I think the progress we made speaks for itself. And I know that we have challenges. The more we grow, the more we move forward, the more challenge we have. And these are all wonderful opportunities that we have to work on. So I continue to use my resource and my dedication, my commitment to make sure we move in the right direction. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you all for adjusting. Dexter, would you give us 1 minute, please? And off mute.
Sure thing, Joe. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, good evening, Bridle Trails. My name is Dexter Borbe, and I'm running for Bellevue City Council. I live in Somerset with my wife and 3 children who all go to Bellevue Public Schools. We love the schools, the parks, and our diverse community. After graduating from MIT, I worked in the corporate world for over 20 years and will bring management skills and strategic thinking to the council. At 38, I was a vice president of the Fortune 500 energy company. Now I'm a small local business owner, providing home health services and part of the fabric of our community. Bellevue is reaching an important stage in its development and needs a fresh voice and new energy on council. As we grow, I want to ensure that our residents enjoy good quality of life, effective transportation, and feel safe in our city. I also want to make sure that we retain Bellevue's character as a city in the park while managing the new influx of residents and workers and attend to their needs in housing, transportation, and services. I'm running because I want Bellevue to be the kind of city where our children can grow up and live in. My key issues are housing and affordability, transportation and environment, and access to services, including public safety. Seattle Times has endorsed me after previously endorsing my opponent, signaling that in these times of change, we need fresh, energetic leadership. And I hope I can convince you all tonight that I can be of better service to Bellevue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Jared, let's ask you to give us a 1-minute introduction as well. And you can see Pam giving you a timer to help you gauge your time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Bridle Trails, and thank you, the Bridle Trails Community Club, for putting this candidate forum on tonight. I was first elected to the Bellevue City Council in 2017, and then 2 years after that, elevated to by my colleagues to deputy mayor. As deputy mayor, I promoted the Bellevue way, the values of transparency, compassion, citizen involvement, and nonpartisanship at the heart of how we work to reach consensus on critical decisions that maintain our city's high quality of life and services. Our growth is expected to continue increasing, and we need thoughtful, pragmatic leaders on the council that listen to residents and build consensus. We need leaders not blinded by ideology or national narratives. Our city council must continue to respond effectively and with urgency to the needs of our residents, and to do this effectively, we must have nonpartisan leaders running our city. You know, I've been so blessed with so many endorsements, including most recently the Seattle Times, where, quote, they said I was easily the best candidate in this race. Thank you.
Okay, Ruth Lipscomb, for position 4, your opening greeting, please.
Hi there, Bridle Trails. I'm Ruth Lipscomb. I moved to Bellevue 38 years ago to be one of the first women engineers at Microsoft, back when it had around 300 employees. I left that job 10 years later when my daughter was young, and I've been a very active community volunteer ever since. My first apartment was in Bridle Trails. It was on 148th and Northeast 40th Street. But for decades, my family has lived in Newport Shores, down in South Bellevue. I love Newport Shores because it's family friendly. It's great for walking and biking. We know each other through our community activities. My neighborhood has historically been connected to boats, just like yours has been connected to horses. So I've seen a lot of change in Bellevue, and the thing that I'm looking forward to working on is housing prices. We need to get housing prices under control so we can help seniors who want to stay in their neighborhoods have options for downsizing. I'm looking forward to keeping our economy thriving, and allowing our teachers, firefighters, nurses, and other essential workers to live in our city again. I'm ready to get to work for Bellevue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, now position 6. We'll start with Lynn Robinson. Would you please give us a 1-minute opening?
Oh, good evening. My name is Lynne Robinson. I've been on the Bellevue City Council for 7.5 years and mayor for almost 2. My husband and I moved to Bellevue about 24 years ago, and we raised our kids in the public school system. And when our youngest went to kindergarten, I created a business that allowed me to work while my kids were in school and be home when they were home. And that was a business that helped older adults age in place. I'm a physical therapist. I love Bellevue. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Seattle Times, the Bellevue firefighters, many strong regional leaders, and I'm very passionate about affordable housing. Since I've been on the council, we've more than doubled our affordable housing stock, and yesterday we reached our 10-year goal 7 years early. So time to set a new one.
Thank you very much. And as our last greeting, we'll ask Gina Johnson, also running for position 6, to give us a greeting.
Hello, I'm Dr. Gina Johnson for Bellevue City Council position 6 as a fresh yet experienced voice for public safety and economic opportunity. I hold a healthcare MBA, serve as a board member with Bellevue Network on Aging, work as an integrative physician, live in Old Bellevue, and enjoy outdoor conservation with my husband and adult children. My diversity of background and experience reflects the vision of Bellevue with Hispanic heritage, birth abroad, multicultural family, and a deep value for community. I'm attuned to neighborhoods and businesses seeking answers to traffic congestion, housing inequity, rising crime and taxes, and deferred park maintenance related to economic recession and government policy. With your vote, I will work to keep Bellevue strong, safe, and open for business with infrastructure and housing aligned with growth, economic development, well-funded emergency services, expanded green spaces, and vibrant cultural richness, which sets us apart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, terrific. So now we've met the candidates, I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to get to question number 1. And this should be easier than before, than looking at Pam's clock, because I have a handy timer that I'll start when our candidates answer questions. So the first question is on growth and infrastructure. And put succinctly, the question is Bellevue growing too quickly? In other words, how will you help manage the city's growth and infrastructure while ensuring that we remain a safe, beautiful, and one of the best places to live? So I'm going to start with position 2. I'll ask Conrad Lee to give us the first answer. And you will notice to the right of the screen a 1-minute timer. And once you begin talking, I'll start it. When it gets to the bottom, please wrap up your statement. Go ahead, Conrad.
Thank you. Bellevue is growing more than faster than we expected. We've always believed that Bellevue will be growing because we are such a great city. We manage so well. We have good plans, but we never anticipated what happened to Amazon, for example. And so we have to be able to manage it well. Whether we're doing too quickly or not depends on how capable we are. What kind of council member do we have? What vision do we have? What planning have we done? And I believe that these are the things we have to manage and have to manage well. People with experience who have done it before, who've seen it before. We cannot control our economic cycles. We cannot control other things, but we definitely can control what we can do. And I think we have done that successfully. So it is growing quickly, but we need to manage it. How do we help manage growth? That's obviously growth brings challenges, transportation, housing, many things, environment. All these things are things that we have to watch out for. We've been successfully managing it in the past. We have done that. We still maintain reputation of city in the park. We have lots. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. And now Dexter Borbe, if you would answer our question on growth and infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Joe. Definitely, I think Bellevue is growing rapidly to achieve its vision as an economic and cultural center on the east side and the Puget Sound. I don't think the problem is so much how rapidly Bellevue has grown, but that Bellevue has not grown in a balanced way. I think Bellevue has grown rapidly in terms of business and economy and has brought in a lot of companies, which is fantastic. But it hasn't quite kept up in terms of housing, transportation, or services. And that imbalance is what's affecting the quality of life for people in Bellevue. There will be a lot more people coming to Bellevue. A lot more people come to work here than live here. 100,000 people more every day come to Bellevue to work and visit. And we need to make sure that the people who live here can live well and that there's enough housing for everybody. We need to make sure that that our transportation is attended to, both in terms of capacity, multimodal transportation solutions, transportation demand management, and more. And we also want to make sure that services scale up so that people are not left without essential services.
Thank you. We'll now go to position 4 candidates and ask Ruth Lipscomb to give us her answer.
I believe that, oh, did you want, there.
Yep.
Reset your timer.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I believe that Bellevue is growing too quickly if you've been here a while and not growing fast enough if you are a newcomer. I think that a lot of people want to come to Bellevue, and I think that we need to make sure that we're planning very, very well for the growth that has already happened, that we have been, has kind of swamped us lately, and for the growth that's coming. King County has already said that we're going to need 35,000 new housing units before 2044. So I think that we need to make sure that we build properly, that we put the growth and the housing where we want it to be, and that we make sure that our infrastructure and our services keep up, and that we make sure that we don't have that growth say cut down all of our trees, or we need to add more parks with all these new people coming. So I think we need to start planning more for the growth we've already had.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Jared Newmanhouse.
Thank you. Well, Councilmember Lee is exactly right. This growth is to a certain extent unanticipated, just because Amazon is a unicorn. There's very few companies in the world can do what Amazon is doing right now. Certainly, prior councils were preparing for this growth, but we're not expecting it until 2030 or later. But I think key to this is that we need experienced council members that are being able to shift and being able to, over the last couple of years, being able to really focus on the consistent effort of where we put that growth: downtown, Belred, Wilburton, Eastgate. And as part of that, protect our single family neighborhoods at the same time with their unique characteristics. And to meet that anticipated growth in recent years, we've expanded the capacity on existing roadways to better connect downtown, Wilburton, Belred, and complement the future East Link light rail that's coming in. There's also been a lot of improvements through the TIFIA loan that was secured back in 2017. The Spring Boulevard, which just opened up recently, won award excellence as well, but then also focus on pedestrian bicycle system within our city. And we need to continue to fully fund our police department and make sure we continue to keep our green spaces wonderful, friendly, and lively. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear the answer from Gina Johnson for position 6.
Hi, yes, thank you. So what I see is that Bellevue has changed its stance from city in a park to the place where you want to be. So our current council has already really embraced growth as part of our future vision. And the challenge that we're seeing is that our infrastructure is not aligned with this growth currently. And we do have a Growth Management Act, and it is expected that growth would happen, but infrastructure should be aligned with it. Right now, our city is taking a reactive stance to growth rather than proactive. We are behind actually in traffic mitigation, and we are seeing impacts in the neighborhood that are concerning people. Things like bringing in different styles of housing and increased density and things like that. So I think we need to revisit the Great Neighborhoods program, and we need to really involve our neighborhoods more and let them have a greater seat at the table so that growth can happen, but can still be in a way where we retain our neighborhood feel and our comfortable lifestyle here. And I still think there are many of us who do like to see this as the city in the park, but also where you would want to be.
Thank you. Thank you. I messed up our timer there, and you answered perfectly on time. Thank you very much. Okay, now Lynne Robinson to wrap us up on growth and infrastructure. And we don't hear you, Lynn. Whoops, let's go up, sorry. Okay, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, we're ready when you are.
So you're right, we are growing really fast, but the growth is not just happening in Bellevue, it's happening everywhere. It's in the entire region, it's in all our neighboring cities. You can't stop growth, but you can plan for it. And I will say that the city has won numerous awards for doing the infrastructure in advance of growth. The Spring District is an excellent example of that. I think that to manage the growth that we're experiencing and are going to experience, we need to kind of embrace that 15-minute city concept of enabling people to live near where they work and have a walkable community where they can easily access parks and open spaces, and increase the amount of people that are working in Bellevue that are living downtown. So all that development that's happening is to support that. But at the same time, we need to maintain our focus on the high public safety, our excellent public schools, parks and green spaces, and making sure that Bellevue continues to be a welcoming and inclusive community.
Thank you. Okay, great. That was question number 1. Now we're going to move to question number 2, and this is on housing. What will you do to prevent homelessness and unauthorized tent encampments in Bellevue? And how will you plan ahead versus purely reacting? And importantly, how will the city pay for your plan? This time we're going to go backward, and we're going to ask Lynne Robinson to start, and we will begin the timer for 1 minute when you're ready.
Okay, let me read the question again.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big question. So I truly believe in the compassionate enforcement that the city's trying to do, but we can only do that if we have shelter beds available for the people who are experiencing homelessness. I don't think that actually it's fair to provide opportunities for people to live outside, since living outside gives you half a life expectancy as a typical adult. So we're working hard to build our homeless shelter in Eastgate. We need to get that up and running. I think that preventing homelessness is really important as well, and making sure that we have the full spectrum of housing affordability. Most of our homeless individuals could afford $300 a month. We have absolutely nothing at that price range. So building micro housing around transit so you don't have to have a car. And the city is already paying for the plan. I mean, we are already planning to expand our services and partner with agencies, and so we're on our way. It's going to be another year before we get that shelter built.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear from Gina Johnson for position 6.
Yes. So homelessness tends to have its roots in a few problems: substance abuse or addiction, also poverty, and also mental health crises. And so I think we could do more to address the root causes of homelessness with treatment programs, partnerships with business and faith communities and treatment facilities, so that we're actually treating the root cause of homelessness and not simply allowing it to exist. Right now, we have a compassionate response, which I believe is not compassionate, nor is it responsive. We have a growing homelessness encampment problem, despite having a full-time homelessness coordinator, because we don't actually offer treatment or immediate resources, and people can still choose that lifestyle versus going into a shelter, even if such shelter is available. King County has vowed to spread the homeless population throughout all the county, and Bellevue will be part of that. Redmond is receiving the most recent shelter hotel, but Bellevue will as well. And so we need to proactively plan for that, make sure that our East Side shelter does have security and rehabilitative services and mental health services on site. And the city has already made plans to pay for that. There are also funds through King County. Thank you.
Okay, we'll hear from position 4 now, Jared Newenhouse.
All right, thank you, Joe. Appreciate the good question here. So first of all, as the mayor alluded to, I think the compassionate enforcement is working in Bellevue. But the issue with that is that residents need to vote for and elect city council members that are going to be willing to enforce those laws and have the political will to maintain those laws, to keep Bellevue special. I think we are attacking this homelessness issue very, very aggressively. It's not perfect. No system is. It's a very complicated situation. And that's knowing that, having been on 2 nonprofit boards that deal with people experiencing homelessness. But we can't enforce our laws unless we are providing services, shelter, which we are going to be doing through the Eastgate campus, which is going to be a tremendous facility that will have wraparound services. We provide them now, but it'll be one hub for that, all those services. And this will not only be a shelter, it'll be supportive housing, it'll be workforce housing, and it'll really help us maintain that compassionate enforcement program that we have here in the city of Bellevue. That is working. And by the way, we've just hired an additional homeless outreach coordinator as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, now please, we'll hear from Ruth Lipscomb.
Well, homelessness is a regional problem. We have 12,000 homeless people in King County, and over 80% of the people who are homeless on the East Side became homeless on the East Side. So we can't, think of these as not being people who are from here. These are our neighbors, and these are people in our communities. I think one of the biggest problems we have is that we currently have the highest rents in the state. And so we are pushing more and more people into homelessness because of those high rents. I think that we need to both preserve the lower rent, say, apartment buildings that the city has done some work around. And then we need to work regionally with King County and with the other cities in our area. And we especially need to have housing for these people. That's why I do support the permanent supportive housing that is coming to our area, because those people will be in our parks and in our in encampments, in our green spaces, if we don't have places for them to go. So I look forward to our city having all the services that we need and housing for the people that need it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll hear from Dexter Borbe next on this issue of housing.
All right, thank you, Joe. Well, nobody wants to have a homeless problem in their city, right? To solve this problem, we need to address it head on. It will not go away. And to this end, I support compassionate enforcement as well as shelters and housing. So those sleeping in tents can be humanely be given shelter and put in front of a social worker, housing navigator, or mental counselor. Homelessness is a much more nuanced problem. Aside from the chronic homeless who suffer from chemical dependency, mental health, or prior convictions, there are the financial homeless, people who lost their jobs, went through medical bankruptcy, or lost their housing. People, the social homeless, victims of domestic abuse, abandoned youth, or divorcees. Each type requires its own solution to nip the problem in the bud, so to speak, or address the problem at the root. I would encourage everyone to watch the September 7 City Council meeting where city staff provided council with an update on the city's homelessness efforts and provided a lot of data on the current state of homelessness in the city. In engineering, we were trying to start with the facts, givens, and work frameworks, work out our frameworks and root causes and solutions. And that is my approach to that will be my approach to homelessness.
Thank you very much. And finally, we'll hear from Conrad Lee. We don't hear you yet, Conrad. Don't forget to take mute off, please.
Okay. Well, thanks, Joe. It's not what we want to do, it's how to do it. You know, I myself, immigrant from Hong Kong, I wasn't born with a silver spoon. So we all know how tough things can be. We want to help our fellow people. We want to make sure that we all, are not going to have a place not have a place to live on, but it's how to do it. I think people who don't know have not been around long enough. We've been working on this for the last 30 years. We have ARCH, Regional Coalition on Housing, but the situation was different then, and not that many, not severe, but now things are definitely getting worse, and we need to rise up to the occasion. So you mentioned about reacting or proactive. Unfortunately, as you all know, government is not that proactive. They cannot be. They need to be very cautious. So we are doing lots of things we've done, like Mayor was talking about. So I don't have time to go through it all, but I will when we have time to do it later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will hear the third and final of these questions, and this is on policing. And the question is, to what extent do you think we should or should not defund the police in Bellevue? And that's a very charged phrase. So I'll sort of clarify by asking, should we shift funds away from policing and toward community services like mental health counselors and addiction treatment? This time, I'm going to start with position 4. And we'll ask Ruth Lipscomb to get us started.
Well, absolutely, we should not defund the police. I think it's a slogan and it is not a policy position, and it's not helpful. So I think what we need to do is we need to fully fund our public safety system. And I think right now, that includes only a couple of the tools that we need. We need to have the community services like mental health counselors and responders who can answer 911 calls. And we need addiction treatment, but that needs to be above and beyond our current public safety system. I think that we are going to have to come up with more money for public safety as our city grows, because we know that as cities grow, crime problems become more prevalent. We are already seeing that. And our state and nation are on the verge of implementing a 988 system, which is a behavioral health phone number where you can call. And we need to have systems that can support those calls to 988.
Thank you. Jared, policing, please.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, the comment by my opponent there makes me think, I wonder if the residents of Seattle think it's just a slogan. Every night we see what's happening. Sky high crime in Seattle, record crime, violent crime, gun crime. I am so proud to say that I'm the first ever candidate to be endorsed by the Bellevue Police Officers Guild and the Bellevue Police Management Association. And I 100% support our exceptional men and women of the Bellevue PD. And absolutely not, we should not be defunding. We need to increase funding, which we did just this past budget cycle. Okay, we're a growing city, as we've talked about before. We've got light rail coming into Bellevue. We need increased funding. We need more men and women to join the ranks of our existing staff right now. Now, in terms of the shift, it's an additional money. And this is something, again, that my opponent keeps getting wrong, is because we are already providing mental health counselors and addiction treatment for our officers when they go out with CARES program folks. It's called the CCAP program, just came out of pilot, and we look forward to the presentation and moving forward with that great program. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to position 2 next. We'll ask Conrad Lee now, please.
No way, Jose, we will not defund our police. We may be able to look at other causes. Of course, we need to, like mental health and all that. I've always advocated for community policing. So it's not taking away money, it's actually increasing money. As we know, our police is getting more burden, and they need to have adequate safety, no question about it. That's what makes our community attractive and safe. And we need to also find funding, and if we have to address the other reasons why people, need to have other services, like Deputy Mayor suggested. And we are doing it, and we have to find resources. Obviously, that's one of the reasons that's to my heart is we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to make sure we justify adequate, spend money where we need it, not just because we can tax it.
Thank you. Dexter Borbe.
All right, thanks, Joe. Well, as a father and as a business owner, I value the safety of our property and our people very much. I want to make sure that our public safety officers have the resources they need to keep everyone and their belongings safe. I want to make sure that our police have enough boots on the ground, especially as we increase our resident and working population, and that they also have the tools and resources to investigate so that criminals know that crime does not pay in Bellevue. At the same time, I think we should, when we think about public safety, we should always remember that firefighters, EMTs, and other first responders are part of public safety as well. I believe in increasing public trust in our police force through accountability measures like body cameras that provide transparency and protect both the officer and the public. I'm thankful that both our former and current police chiefs believe in strong community relationships as part of the entire public safety equation. I think that that for mental health, the counselors and addiction treatment, that those would be in addition to the resources that we need in order to have enough boots on the ground and enough investigative capacity.
Thank you. For position 6, we'll first turn to Gina Johnson to answer this question on policing.
Thank you. Absolutely. I feel we should fully fund our police and fire. Our response times are a bit lower than national average. We need to remedy that. And also, we've deferred Fire Station 10. And coming back to police, I have gone on a ride along. I've met with police on the beat. Morale is low. Recruitment is very difficult right now because of the defund the police movement or slogan, however Ruth described it as, but it has had a grave impact on policing morale and effectiveness. And I live downtown. I was witness to 4 hours of looting and rioting in our downtown park and mall and neighborhood. I saw the glass broken, the spray painting, got out with my neighbor to clean up the mess. And our police did not feel supported. They felt overwhelmed and they were not able to respond appropriately. And that was under our current leadership, my opponent. We need to change that. We need to fund and support our police fully. And we have the funds, and anything else like mental health care, that would be adjunctive, not a replacement to policing. Thank you.
Okay. Great. And finally, we will hear from Lynne Robinson on this issue.
Well, it's clear we need a more nuanced approach to public safety that better responds to the people in crisis. And that's not defunding the police, that's adding to the funding that we are already doing that has given us a very high public safety rating. And it's really makes me sad when I hear my opponent talk about the police so disparagingly at those May 31st incident. They were outnumbered by 300 protesters, and we did not get the police reinforcement that was promised because every city around us was struggling that night. And obviously when the National Guard came, which I called, the protests ended, all the violence ended, because then we had more people The police had more people than protesters. So they did everything right that night. They worked very hard for us, and we worked in collaboration together to make sure that they could use the tools they needed to make sure nobody died and the mall wasn't burnt. So that was a very challenging night. But we truly need to re-examine our policies for dealing with some of the challenges that we have with our police response to challenged individuals.
Yes. Okay. And we've now made it through our 3 questions. Thank you very much. We're going to do something that we call your priorities. And this is going to work like so. I'm going to read a list of topics that will be competing for your attention and your budget choices on the City Council. These are different generally than the last 3 topics we've talked about. And I'm going to ask you to decide on your top priorities. You can choose 1 or 2 or 3, but I want you to pick the ones that are most important to you as a candidate. And I'll ask you to post your priorities in the Zoom chat, mark for everyone, so that they can see where you stand on these priorities. And then I'll give each one of you a minute, 1 minute, with a timer to explain which priorities you chose and why. So our list of priorities is as follows: access to parks, trails, and open space, cultural diversity, housing density, peace and quiet, property taxes, safety, sense of community, traffic congestion, trees and landscaping, and utility rates. So take a moment, look at this list. I'll play a little bit of music you'll probably be familiar with while you decide, and then I'm going to ask you to please post your priorities in the chat. Okay, I'm going to look at chat and make sure that we have answers from everyone. Okay, we have an answer from, let's see, from Lynn Robinson, from Gina Johnson, from Ruth Lipscomb, from Jared Neuenhouse, from Dexter Borbe. I don't know if we have for Conrad's in yet. And Conrad, okay, great. So I am going to choose you at random to spend a minute and tell us which your priorities you chose and why. So let me start with Jared Neuenhouse. I'm going to start our timer here and take a minute to tell us what's important to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, Joe. So number 1, I have public safety. I think we covered that a little bit earlier, but quite frankly, it should be the number 1 priority of any local government. And quite frankly, if residents can't trust us with such a basic service as public safety, why would they trust us with anything else? And if we don't have public safety, everything else falls apart, because before you know it, businesses won't want to move here, families won't want to move here, and our school district will suffer as well. Number 2, housing density. As we described earlier, we need to create more affordable housing, and we need to put that housing in the right areas, in the TOD areas, in those growth corridor areas. That's where the real opportunity is for us. And as the mayor mentioned before, we've already hit our goal 7 years earlier. Let's set a new goal and let's start developing more opportunities for affordable units. And then third, I put community, but for me, it really means neighborhoods, and that means protecting our single family neighborhoods. This is again another point where my opponent and I disagree on upzoning single family neighborhoods. In fact, during the last candidate forum, she said she wants to upzone Bridle Trails neighborhood. And that's something that we should never do, no matter what neighborhood. We should be not upzoning. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask Ruth Lipscomb to share her priorities now.
And I can do it in a minute, thanks. Housing density is important to me. I do believe that we need to lightly increase density in our single family neighborhoods, because I think that homeowners should have the option to have a backyard cottage that is small and that fits into the neighborhood, that they can use for their own family members or for their parents or for their caregivers as they age. And I think that we are denying that access right now. And so I do believe that housing density is important. On safety, I think that safety is super important. And I think that nobody can feel safe unless they trust that their police department is well managed. I would like us to add a commission, as we have a parks commission and a transportation and a planning commission. Why do we not have a public safety commission that can make issues, take care of issues and bring them to the city council directly? I think that equity is very important, and then we need to apply an equity lens to our budget. And tree protection is my fourth. Thank you.
Thank you. We got a bonus one there. Okay. So let's now go to Conrad Lee, please. Conrad, tell us your priorities. And make sure you're off mute, please.
Thank you. I thought I was on mute. Money makes the world go around. We have lots of good things we want to accomplish, which follows. But without money, without financial resources, it's all talk. Okay, we need to make sure we are fiscally responsible, financially capable. The things that's important is safety. People move to Bellevue because it's safe. We can do our businesses. We can live comfortably. We can have children go to school because it's safe. So safety, number one. Safety doesn't mean just police, but include, of course, fire department as well. Then sense of community, which is neighborhoods. Neighborhoods made of people, and people live in place where they feel quality of life is important. We have schools, we have playgrounds, open space, and we have obviously transportation, mobility. All these are important so that we can live the way we want it. And each neighborhood have characters. We need to preserve them. We make sure that we can age in them, that we'll live there for the rest of our life and for our kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's now hear from Dexter Borbe on your priorities, please.
All right, thank you, Joe. Well, my first one is housing by a large mile. Part of the reason we have the shortage in housing in Bellevue is the root cause of basically diminishing quality of life for a lot of people. Over basically a third of the people in Bellevue spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Right, 45% of Bellevue are renters, despite the high area median incomes that we have. And I think that's not, that affects a lot of other things, including your sense of community, your neighborhood character, and whatnot. It also affects your property taxes. The votes that council makes on property taxes is minuscule compared to the effect that the increasing property valuations have had on property taxes that people pay. Traffic congestion is extremely important. If people can't get around and do what they need to do, get to work, get childcare, get healthcare, then that's going to be a very difficult city to live in. And of course, public safety is overarching, right? And safety, is more than just policing. It's safety also in terms of traffic safety, in terms of our rescue and firefighter services.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll move to position 6 now, and I'll ask Lynne Robinson to get us started when she's ready.
Well, public safety is a top concern. I think I already addressed that. So I'll go on to traffic congestion. So right now, only 10% of the people who work in downtown Bellevue live in Bellevue. So that's 100,000 people coming in and out of our city every workday. If we can create more opportunities for people to live where they work, that's going to have a major impact on our congestion. And eliminating that or reducing that is going to have a big effect on our neighborhood cut-through traffic, which is a major concern of mine. We addressed it very well in my neighborhood in Woodridge when I lived there. So if you are experiencing that, reach out to me at my council address and let's talk about what we can do to address that. And the last is trees. I really want to make sure we re-examine our tree code so we can stop clear cutting residential lots every time there's a remodel or that we're rebuilding the homes.
Thank you very much. And finally, we'll hear priorities from Gina Johnson.
Yes, I chose safety, traffic congestion, and open space. Safety isn't just physical safety, although that definitely is one of humans' most basic needs. And certainly we've seen crime rise in Bellevue sharply since 2016. And yes, while the Bellevue Square area was not burned down, as my opponent said, livelihoods were lost, and we still see the impact of it downtown. There are still empty businesses that never recovered since that initial riot. So that's very important to address that. Also, economic security, so that we don't feel that we're losing our livelihoods to high property taxes and high utility fees. Cities have an important role in controlling that, and ours have risen in this past year during economic recession. Also, we want to look at traffic congestion. We are not meeting our goals, our vision for traffic congestion relief. In fact, there will be a vote in November, or in the fall actually, for council to consider taking traffic congestion relief out of the comprehensive plan, that language. And I believe it should stay in that language. Thank you.
Okay. Really appreciate everyone's thoughtful answers to these questions so far. Now we're going to turn it over to the audience, and I am going to try to see what question and answer number one. Here we go. This sounds like it is to all of the candidates, and we'll let you decide if you would like to answer this. How do you perceive PSE Energize East Side project being consistent with the council approved environmental stewardship plan's impact on the Bridle Trails community? I'll read that one more time. How do you perceive PSE Energize East Side project being consistent with the council approved environmental stewardship plan's impact on the Bridle Trails community? And I'm looking for volunteers to answer that question. Looks like Ruth has raised her hand virtually. And so Ruth, why don't you start off?
Sure, that's a great question. I believe that when Energize East Side was first proposed in 2013, we had a very different energy situation. Our population was growing and our energy use was growing. Now our population is growing, but energy use is actually dropping. So I think it's time to revisit that decision and to have Puget Sound Energy bring new data to show that their solution that they have proposed, which has not been approved all the way, the whole thing has not been approved through Bellevue, make sure that that is still what is needed. I think that there are new technologies, for instance, local generation and storage for electricity that Puget Sound Energy should be considering. And it's time to revisit that decision.
Gina Johnson, your answer.
Yes, I believe the Puget Sound Energy Energize East Side plan is not consistent actually with our environmental stewardship initiative plans. The power that is largely used by PSE is non-renewable energy, so that seems inconsistent. There certainly are some fire safety risks that have been proposed, so that is certainly something to consider as well. But I will say that the council has so far unanimously voted for it, so I would like to hear their comments on why they voted unanimously for it when it does seem very inconsistent with our environmental stewardship plan. Thank you.
Okay, Lynne Robinson.
Well, Ruth, I have to tell you, the data never was compelling, just to be factual. And the only thing that is consistent with our environmental stewardship initiative is the fact that with these high capacity transmission lines, we're PSC able to shift over to hydropower. They will transfer that power very effectively at a safe way and at a reduced cost. We're the PSC to shift over to all the renewables and the storage that we all would like them to have, that the energy costs will go way up, and that may happen. We do not have authority over a public utility. We can only, let them do what they need to do to continue to provide safe, reliable power. And it's really disappointing that this is the only way that our power company can come up with.
Okay, these were great answers. I wish we had time for everyone to answer all of them. We're going to move on to question number 2. Backyard, let me see if I have this right. Backyard cottages are allowed now. Do you want more Airbnbs? So I don't know if that's question 2 or if it's 2 backyard cottages are allowed now, but the question really is, do you want more Airbnbs? I'll ask everyone who doesn't want to answer just to take their hands off. And if you do want to answer, make sure that your hands are raised. Let's see, Jared, I don't think we had you on the last one. So Jared, why don't you take a first crack at this?
Okay, thanks. No, I don't want more Airbnbs. And again, it goes back to the earlier question about putting either attached or detached cottages in very special, unique neighborhoods. I think that we need to maintain that characteristic. I think if it's an aging in place situation with a backyard, that's one thing, but we need to manage this smartly, because I don't want to see neighborhoods get overrun with traffic and not enough parking spaces, or Airbnb situations. Talking about congestion now in neighborhoods. If everyone starts building a cottage in their backyard and putting it on Airbnb or renting it out to whomever, that's really going to have a detrimental effect to your quality of life in your neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Dexter Borbe, your answer to this question.
Yeah, I am not in favor of Airbnbs. I think my whole premise in my housing platform is that I want to increase local home ownership. I want our children who grew up here to be able to grow up here and live here. I want our essential workers, our teachers, our nurses, and firefighters to be able to afford to live here and not have to move away. So having more Airbnbs does not help that, right? I want there to be more housing that people can afford, and that will help people build a better sense of community.
Okay, we have so many questions. I would love to give everyone a chance to answer each one, but I want to make sure we give our audience the chance to be heard. Question 3, what is your vision and plan for the area surrounding the future 130th Avenue Northeast light rail station? I'll ask you to put your virtual hands down if you don't want to answer, and if you do want to answer, put them up. Lynne Robinson.
This is a tremendous opportunity that the city has. We own property there on 130th, 2 places actually, and Amazon owns property right next to it. And so there's an opportunity to create affordable housing right next to light rail. They look at daylighting the streams. There's so many streams there that need to be daylighted that will really enhance the community and creating a beautiful space for the community to live, work, and play. So I'm excited about the vision for that spot.
Thank you. Conrad Lee.
Thank you. I agree with the mayor. Bellevue corridor development is a wonderful plan for the future. We plan it for the next 25 years. Of course, as we talked about earlier, things speeded up quite a bit, but the vision still remains. It's well planned as a plan that has transportation and planning all together at once. Very seldom city planning can make that happen. Usually one lacking the other, but this was very, very good. And so I believe that creates opportunity for us to plan for housing, plan for business, plan for recreation, plan for what's good for the city of Bellevue. That is a great addition.
Thank you. Next question. How will you make sure that King County does not make too much affordable housing in one place? How will King County not make too much affordable housing in one place? Hands down, please, if that's not of interest to answer. Hands up if you would like to. And I see Lynne Robinson.
A lot of things, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the City Council of Bellevue unanimously chose to collect sales tax, just a fraction of sales tax called the House Bill $1590, to allow us to create our own supportive housing. So when people talk about the fear of King County putting supportive housing in Bellevue like they're doing in Redmond, that's not going to happen. We have our own money to do that. They have their money to do it in the cities that didn't choose to do that. And the thing that Bellevue has done that's just been brilliant is we mix affordabilities in housing units. We don't have one huge building of really super low income. Very rarely do we. It's usually mixed in. And all that multifamily property tax exemption, the MFTE that we voted in, that's to guarantee that a certain percentage of every housing development will have affordable housing mixed in with market rates.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we just made everyone a little bigger so that people can see you and your expressions. Okay, it looks like I got it. Okay, so the next question.
We haven't finished. Can I
Oh.
add to this last question on housing?
Yes, you may. We can have a second answer to that.
Thank you, appreciate that. Housing, as we all talked earlier, is very important, especially housing options. As I indicated before, Bellevue is working on it for a long time, but we have a more acute situation, so we are working toward a better change, better management. And the way to combat other people telling us what to do is that we have the money, resources, we have our tax in our own hands, we can do it Bellevue way, our way. It's got to be done thoughtfully. I think that's a very good question. We don't need to have King County telling us what to do. Bellevue is solving a problem our own in terms of the regional solution when we can do it. So as a result, we are providing, the homeless shelter, the Eastgate, and we're providing 25 units of affordable housing. We easily can see that. Right now, we only have about 1,300. So, we are moving forward rapidly. We've done more in the last 6 months than many cities in the region has done. So people have said that Bellevue should be a model how to provide affordable housing options. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, another question. The Redmond quote unquote homeless hotel is placed such that it is impacting Bellevue residents and businesses due to its location, not Redmond residents. What are you doing to ensure, or what will you do to ensure the area of Bellevue near this Redmond location is not adversely affected? And do you support King County's chronic homeless permanent shelters less than 500 feet away from daycares and schools? And I'll look for hands. And if there aren't any, we do have Dexter and Ruth. You will both be able to answer. Dexter, why don't you start?
So from my understanding, the Silver Cloud Inn was meant to be permanent supportive housing, not a day shelter or a wraparound shelter. So it's meant for permanent residents, not for transient homeless people to go in, right? So that's my understanding of that. And I think there's been some confusion around what the nature of that facility is going to be, right? So it's basically low-cost housing with social services and access. I think in terms of chronic permanent homeless shelters less than 500 feet away from, I don't know if there are any that are 500 feet away from daycares and schools right now. It's part, so I don't know how to answer that part of the question.
Okay. Ruth.
Yes, I would like to make sure that we're characterizing this correctly, that it is permanent housing. It is like mini apartments. It is not transient, as Dexter pointed out. It is not a shelter, and that there is 24/7 staff on site to offer support for the people who are there. I would also like to point out that there was an extensive study done by New York University within the last couple of years that showed that actually property values go up when there are services for homelessness provided in an area. And I think that that's fairly obvious that when you don't have the people on the streets, that your property values will go up. So I think that this is something that I do support King County stepping up to make those units available for the people who need them. And they really are desperately needed. So I am in support of those.
Okay, let's give two more people the opportunity to answer that question. Gina, you have the floor.
Yes, so this health through housing model is designed to be permanent housing for the chronically homeless. And so you now see, for example, in Seattle, these individuals living in tents, say outside of the courthouse, and there certainly have been some problems associated with that, some significant problems. And so the area residents in this area around the Silver Cloud Hotel are just concerned because they have children, there are businesses there, and they want to know that there's a safety plan in place, which there's not, neither in Seattle nor would there be in this scenario. And they want to make sure that there's actually access to treatment for individuals, so that we're actually helping people and not just housing people. And so we do need to hear a clear plan about how these wraparound services look, because they have not worked well in Seattle. And that's the only model that we have locally to look at. And there are actually other evidence-based models that we could consider treatment first models versus just housing first. So we actually help people and heal people rather than just put a roof over them. Thank you.
Thank you. Dexter, last answer to this question.
No, actually, I was just going to add a clarification, but if we can let Mayor Robinson give her answer.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the hand. Mayor Robinson.
I appreciate the opportunity to answer this question, because indeed it is permanent supportive housing, which inherently does have supportive services. And I'm on the mental illness drug dependency oversight committee, and all the research shows that no matter how much money and how many services you give to somebody who's homeless, they can't heal, they can't recover until they're housed. So we need to get them in housing. And we do have models like this already in Bellevue. It's great that you don't know about it, because they're not a problem. It's not an issue. But right downtown on 2nd Street, we have housing that is exactly like what they're putting in Redmond, where we take homeless people from 0 to 30% AMI, mentally ill, and veterans. And they've done really well there, and they've succeeded very well. So I'm very supportive of this and excited to provide people with the opportunities that they need to get back on their feet.
Thank you. Jared, your hand is up.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to address part of that question there. And then also just to make sure that everyone understands that the city of Bellevue wasn't part of this decision at all. In fact, it came as a surprise to us. I just wanted folks to know that if the individual placed that question there. And but we have reacted quickly. And I also wanted us to make sure that folks understand that we are working very closely with the city of Redmond, with the Redmond Police Department, and we will be working very closely with the operator. Once the operator is selected, or maybe they just did select an operator for it, we will be working very closely with them to hopefully mitigate if there are any impacts to the neighborhood or the community because of its closeness to the city of Bellevue, that we will react as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to add that to the robust discussion we've been having on this good question here. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll let Dexter provide the last answer. And then I think we'll have one more question after this.
Yeah, this is just a little adder. I did speak with Interim Chief, or now Chief Shirley, about that, and he said that they were ready and working closely with the Redmond Police Department. One little trivia I learned is that the Redmond Police Chief used to work for Chief Shirley back in Santa Monica. A great relationship. So
okay. We're going to wrap up with one last question, and that is, tell me about your plan to work with residents to plan for the next 10 years of city policies, to work with residents to plan for the next 10 years of city policies. And we're going to go around the horn on this, please, as we wrap up. We'll start, Dexter, you finished last on the last question. Let's start off with you on this question.
Yeah, no, I think definitely we need to talk to all of the 16 neighborhoods in Bellevue. I think Bellevue has, it's not uniform. There are 16 neighborhoods in Bellevue. Each neighborhood has its own characteristics, offers its own amenities, lifestyle, and has different needs. And I would love to meet all of the neighborhood associations, all of the leaders, and not just the leaders, but the residents as much as I can, and help me, and help me give them a voice, if you will, right, in the comprehensive planning that's to come.
Conrad Lee for position 2. Your thoughts on planning to work with residents?
It's very important. Most important thing is to communicate, engage residents, because we serve them and they have a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge, and they are where the situation is, issues. We got to have them, and they have lots of people that can help. So it's most important. The city of Bellevue has been working on this for the last 30 years. We've gone through lots of ways, and that's one thing the city has a lot of room to improve, no question about it. As we know, communication both ways, communication is very challenging, especially when community is growing, becoming more diverse, more immigrants. They don't understand, there's no connection. So we need to provide trusted messengers. We need to develop. The city is doing a lot of things doing that. We're essential. Bellevue Essential. We have got commissions and we've done a lot, but it takes work to work on it, solve more and more problems. And so we've done this community association. We've done all that. We've helped each community associate how to do better. We help them to send out newsletter, help them to organize, but it just have to work, comes and go, because it depends on the neighborhood, depending on individuals like you are. Bridle Trails is a very good model of having a good association that has stayed, remained all these years. They have listened, we've listened to them, they work with us. We went through all the challenges with PSC, with undergrounding. We're still working on it. And we're going to do that with all the neighborhoods there is. So it's work in progress. We got to keep working at it. And I'm a good model of getting people together and communicating. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, position 6. Let's hear Gina Johnson, please.
Thank you. I believe in having an open door policy. I believe that everyone needs to have a voice and a seat at the table. I'm not a career politician, and I just believe that I want to have engagement and service. That's really what I stand for as a physician, but also I would as your elected council member. So thank you. I look forward to getting to know as many of you as possible. I've been out in the neighborhoods and meeting with businesses and residents, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Please do vote.
Thank you. Lynne Robinson.
Part of being an inclusive community is listening to everybody. And Bellevue is getting better and better at outreach and making sure that everybody's voice is heard. I'm the only council member to hold regular office hours. I encourage anybody to sign up for an appointment with me, either in Zoom or virtual, so I can listen to you and hear your concerns and what you like about Bellevue. I'll also say I've been involved in multiple neighborhood enhancement programs, and I've never gotten any complaints when it's done. And if you don't get everything you want the first time, 4 years later, you get to do it again. It's really an incredible program that engages each neighborhood individually.
Thank you. So we'll hear from position 4. Jared, would you start us off?
Oh, certainly. So, great neighborhoods and a great neighborhoods plan is all about really, strong community connections, strengthening neighborhoods, and it's really all about listening to residents. So it's really, at the end of the day, about outreach. What do you want for your neighborhood? And then making sure that the city is listening intently, and that the plans or the zoning for that neighborhood is exactly what the residents are looking for. It's been such a pleasure to be on the city council for 4 years representing residents. I want to continue being their voice on the city council, representing them, representing their neighborhood, because at the end of the day, it's about the residents. What do they want for Bellevue? And if anyone wants more information about me and my campaign, they can go to jaredforbellevue.com or email me directly at jared@jaredforbellevue.com. Thank you so much. Again, Bridle Trails neighborhood, it was a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now last word from Ruth Lipscomb for position 4.
I think that outreach is very important, but I think that the city has missed one part of this. The city does a lot of outreach and gets a lot of input from a lot of different residents and neighborhoods, but they don't do a feedback loop where they tell the neighborhoods how that information was used and what the decision making was that came out of that. So that's something that I've heard quite often over the last few months. My campaign has knocked on over 10,000 doors. I've knocked on over 3,500 myself. I've talked to an awful lot of the neighbors in these places, and I've heard all of their concerns. And as anybody who's emailed me at my campaign website, they know every single email gets answered, and I have answered them personally, and usually with a pretty long and thoughtful answer. So, if anybody has emailed me, they have gotten a response. So I think that the city needs to get better at closing the feedback loop. And I have talked to City Manager Miyake about this and given him some suggestions. And I hope to continue that process if I'm on the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. We're going to close things out very shortly. We want to give a message to those of you in the audience that the Bridle Trails Community Club is looking for community members to get involved in the club. This is a wonderful way to make a difference in Bridle Trails. There are opportunities to volunteer, play a role potentially on the board or even in leadership. If this is of interest to you, we encourage you to contact board@bridletrailscommunity.org. You've heard from all the candidates tonight how wonderful a place this is. We agree, and this is a great way to show it and play a role. So with that, I want to say thank you so very much to you in the audience for coming. We're going to post this video on bridletrailscommunity.org so you can watch it. I want to thank especially the candidates who came and spent their evening with us. It means a lot to us in Bridle Trails that you're here with us tonight. Don't forget, everyone, to register to vote by the 25th or in person by November 2nd and vote by November 2nd, 8 p.m. Have a great rest of the season. Thank you all and good night.